All right, so today we are talking about a popular movement. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have heard it on YouTube, on Instagram. We're talking about the FIRE movement. Somebody tell me, what does FIRE stand for?
The house is burning down? I don't know.
We've had a lot of fires in Southern California
We have
recently.
had a lot of fires, actually.
So I'm assuming it means something to do with
something else.
Los Angeles, Pacific Palisades. Is that what it is, Laura?
Yeah, drum roll, please. No, financial fire.
What do you mean, I didn't get it right?
We're talking about in the financial context. Let's hone it down. Let's hone it in.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are
so
building.
Financially, this is what you want. The financially independent and retire early. People
Ding,
who are
ding,
looking.
ding.
Yeah, usually we hear a lot of
Financially
this.
independent and does that add up correctly?
Financial independence
and retire early.
So it begs the
FIRE.
question, what does financial independence actually mean? And we're going to get to that in a second. But in general, this is a movement about creating a lifestyle and an investment plan that offers financial independence, meaning they're less reliant on actually making an earned income on an annual basis, so that that individual can steer towards an early retirement date funded by their savings account. So it's a very popular movement and sentiment, particularly among millennials. And, you hear it talked a lot about on podcasts, blogs, social media, etc. So we thought we'd take some time today to kind of talk about some of the components of the FIRE movement, talk about some of the realities, some of the good parts, some of the parts that,
Yep.
I mean, you're both millennials, right? I mean, are you both millennials?
Not technically.
We're old.
But
millennials.
do you
I'm
rub
not sure
shoulders
about
with people that have actually desired to do this in your
yeah.
age bracket?
Yes, definitely.
We have friends,
Okay.
colleagues. We have a couple of clients who are on this path. And the words that we hear a lot around this is passive income. It's someone who has this idea that I need to do things now that are going to generate for me passive income. There's very few
passive
people.
income and extreme savings.
Yeah. There's very few people I've seen that are in the FIRE movement that are just the idea of, I'm going to have this amount of money and I'm just going to live off of it until it runs out. That's not usually what they're thinking. They're thinking of, I need investments that pay me income. I need a real estate that pays me income. I need to set up some structures so that at a certain point in my life, I can stop having a paycheck, stop my 9 to 5, and the income that's flowing from these assets will support my lifestyle, is generally what we're looking at.
So again, I think there's some really big requirements here. When we sit down and I'm just thinking through it from my vantage point of being older, what happens if you have children? I mean, that to me is a big deal. I mean, I've read so many articles about couples that have tried to become financially independent, put a lot of money into their 4K to max out all their savings. And then all of a sudden, baby shows up. And that changes their financial outlook. I think you guys can address that more in this day and age than I can.
People that are gearing towards we'll call it the FIRE movement, or just an extremely early retirement date, which they're equivocating to the term financial independence, right? They are told to save 50 to 75% of their income.
That is an immense amount of money.
That's an immense amount. We live here in California, just the cost of living, I think on average, people spend at least 30% on average of their budget just towards housing. So, and we're not even in the most expensive part of California, right? Those are just some broad-based numbers. So when you think practically about what it would mean to actually live your lifestyle, I'm sure all of our listeners are kind of doing some calculations in their head. There's two factors that play here. One, they want to do extreme budgeting, cost savings measures, but the FIRE movement individuals are also trying to push their income as hard and fast as possible, right? We've got those two levers at play, but it could practically mean like, hey, I'm not going to allow my kids to do certain activities or sports or the babysitter or the nanny that we need or the private school or et cetera, so that we can meet this savings metric. Like, it's a really extreme lifestyle.
Yep. And I think a lot of the folks who are in this, they have a vision. I think the people who are going to be potentially successful have a vision of what they want to do in retirement, right? It's not just I got to get away from my job. I'm willing to do some hard things. Often it's saying, I would love to live out of a travel van, or I would love to have a farm in the country. They have some very clear vision of where they want to get to and a lifestyle that they're trying to accomplish. And they're willing between now and then to, like you said, forego date nights, forego kids sports, forego a new car.
Vacation.
Right. In order to build up some of these asset bases. And a lot of what people I've spoken with in this, that they're gleaming the internet to say, where can I put this money that it's going to grow for me, that it's going to multiply for me? And the benefit being, man, they're making some good moves. They're buying real estate. They're getting some good investments. The negative often is they're also on the edge of the get rich quick. And I think people who are really part of the fire movement would say, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is a work hard, know where my values are, and get a future I'm excited about. But just next to that is somebody who says, hey, there's an Instagram ad that says, click on this, and you get passive income, and I only work 2 days a week, and I make $100,000 a year. I think they're fairly susceptible to those side hustles that feel like they're really moving forward, but it costs you something to sign up. It costs you something to invest in. And I think there's some risk there of trying to make the money so fast that potentially they fall into not just scams, but off the beaten track ideas.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen people that have tried to do that on their own. They end up losing, and it takes them years to recover after they've made some really bad financial choices. I think we should compare those people that have a W-2 income that work for wages versus those people that are independent. In other words, they work for themselves. Your use of dollars becomes a lot more beneficial if you work for yourself. I mean, just how you structure your life. But a lot of people working for W-2, they're limited to their savings to what they can put in their 401k. Whereas if you work for yourself, I mean, again, it's tax deductible money. So you're getting better use of it. But there's also restrictions on that, isn't it? I mean, you can't automatically, you just can't start taking money out of your retirement account, let's say when you're 40. So if you were able to meet all your savings goals, but then the government says, no, if you got all this money in qualified accounts, we're going to slap your hands coming out. So again, it's the structure of passive income. How does that income, how is it created, and how does it start to, the inflow, and now what happens to the outflow, right?
The other thing we see a lot is a Roth, right? You take the post-tax dollars now, you invest it. If you wait for at least 5 years and you start taking that out tax-free, right? Like that has to do, it's interesting when I think about someone who really is embracing this FIRE movement, and I think about, is the goal to get yourself out of a career that you don't enjoy now? Because, we have several clients that enjoy their careers. And so they don't feel like they're trying to sprint to a finish line, right? They're chipping away, they're progressing, they're promoting, they are looking for promotion. If they're a business or an entrepreneur, they might be looking to start their next business. And so I'm curious sometimes when I talk to people around their motivation behind this mindset is it that you're just not working a job that you really love? And so you're trying to save as much to enable some freedom for you to make another choice that isn't as reliant on income? Fair enough. That totally makes sense. But I don't really see the goal being like, I'm going to get to this finish line and then I am just ready to sit in that rocking chair on my porch and just whittle my time away.
Yeah, I think financial freedom isn't just that you have complete ability to relax and not be challenged physically, mentally, whatever. I mean, you go into neutral. To me, that is an anathema. I just don't like that. I feel like we are built to work, and the kind of work that we do you should be work towards something that you feel like you're contributing to society, but also it should be satisfactory for you. Oftentimes people fall into a trap and they get to a certain level in their job and their income level is high enough. It's not enough for them to retire early, but it's also the level of comfort. They can't just step away from it and rebuild their life afterwards, right? So,
yeah, that's right. And I think the other one I want to bring in here is for the Instagram and social media. I think part of the elevation of this is you have people who are saying, look, I've done it. I live on a beach now. I'm 40 years old. I go and I do my workout routine every morning for 4 hours. It's wonderful. These lifestyles that seem so like unattainable and so wonderful. And I think there's an appropriate grain of salt. Is some of that? Absolutely. There's people out there who have achieved everything they wanted. There's others who it's just not real yet. The houses in LA, they get rented and someone walks around, this is my house but really it's just a rental, that they're using for the hours. The other that I think is really interesting is we have a lot of clients who start from zero. They didn't get anything from their parents and they start building a life and they're going from there. We have other clients who inherit homes, inherit companies, inherit all sorts of things from their parents, and their ability to take that asset, build it and grow it into something new that at 30 or 40, is self-sustaining is very different. So I think there's a part of when someone is considering this, like you kind of really need to run your own race. think about what you care about, where you want to get to, whether you want to work, retire, live on a beach, live in a van, whatever it may be. Decide what's crystal clear for you, but really don't compare yours to somebody else, because you might feel behind or ahead. But either way, with social media, it is so hard to know, is that, one, is it real? But then two, did they start from where you started? Are they building what you're building? And I can see a lot of people getting discouraged in that. So I think the benefit of this FIRE movement is to say, I know where I want to get to. I'm willing to make the right choices to get me there. And that there's some beauty there.
There's a commitment to lifestyle for those who have goals in the future to do more traveling or to just have more expenses. You know, they want to live a more lavish lifestyle. They've worked hard as a young person. They want to buy a bigger home or a different car, etc. And in this thought process, you're saying, hey, I'm going to commit to this certain kind of lifestyle. I'm going to maintain that for the duration. And like you said earlier on, if we have a family, if you have other dependents in your life, there's going to be factors that come in that are going to make that level of expense, household expense, it's going to be difficult to maintain. But hey, one of the things I don't want to just knock the FIRE movement, because there are some principles behind it that I think are valuable, right? If as a young person, we were seriously considering retirement, that is going to indicate a different behavior. And that's absolutely worthwhile to consider, right? I wish I was really serious about retirement when I first started earning income.
Yeah.
It's
great example.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think you're looking at a lifestyle. I mean, America's built on consumerism. So in order to really embrace, if you're starting from zero to embrace this particular movement, you have to be almost an anti-consumer. You have to figure out how you're going to acquire and build, clothes, furniture, whatever. And you have to do it. That is almost an opposite of what you open up a magazine, television. I mean, no matter what it is, it tells you you're a better person if you buy this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it is a different mentality. No question about it.
Yeah. I think a good example of a client who he had been a single guy and he had a great job. And so he was maxing out his 401k from kind of his first paycheck and did that for a couple of years. Didn't really need a lot of money to spend. He was just happy with his life and making really good money. And then he, started dating this girl and they ended up getting married. And it was this cool moment where she didn't have a job that had really given her extra, but he did. And when they got married, she was like, I realized, she's like, I get this 401k also. I didn't realize. And it was really this huge moment of her realizing he was already preparing for their life together even before they knew each other. It was a real beautiful moment of, like you said, Laura, someone who is young in their career making these really good choices. Hey, I'm going to buy an investment property. I'm going to put money into my retirement, so that when they do find a future life, that they're now with somebody else, with a partner, and kind of doing that together, they're ahead of the game rather than starting at that point. And
right.
Others is a real beautiful moment.
I think you're actually offering some dating advice there, which is
maybe.
For anyone out there who's dating, take a look at how they spend their money, right? If the guy rolls up in like a lavish vehicle, maybe that's actually like a red flag.
Right. So, his credit cards are all maxed. He's got the coolest car, right? As opposed to someone who is
you don't see the K when the guy steps out of the car, So the other strategy here, we've talked about, extreme savings. We also want to talk about the lack of debt, because financial independence also is synonymous with not being tied up into short-term or long-term liabilities. And so, this might mean that home ownership isn't a consideration, or having enough cash to buy the basic needs that you have, if it's car or other forms of transportation, whatever it is, right out of pocket without taking on a lot of debt. And so I would say that the principle behind managing your debt, keeping your debt low, is solid. But the reality of being able to save enough cash to purchase a home outright and not have a mortgage, or to pay your mortgage off early within 10 to 15 years, that is a habit that doesn't fit all circumstances. It certainly could be honorable, but it could create too much stress on the household.
Yeah, particularly if you have husband and wife and let's say that one person is driving this, you better have a buy-in from both sides, because this is not a singular purpose. If you're married, it better be a buy-in from both sides, because it's not something you're going to be able to do by yourself, right? I mean, it is that.
Yeah, one of the questions I often ask people as they're approaching retirement, whatever age they are, but as they're approaching, kind of changing their job situation, is, what's going to change? Is there pent up travel that you haven't been able to do that you're both saying, finally, we get to go do this traveling? Or is it that you've traveled all along? And we had a couple not too long ago that we sat down with, and they, as they go forward, they basically said, we do all the traveling we want to do. Like, we take weekends, we take days off. We've been to all the places that we would think to go. I don't think our lifestyle is going to change at all. There's a really nice moment, not that one's right or wrong, but it was just a moment of saying they had created a lifestyle that, work or no work, they were going to be doing the same things. I thought that was really, and there's part of that, the financial independent, retire early, that they weren't necessarily early, but they already knew that they were financially independent. And even the years when they were working, they were living the lifestyle, the health choices, the experience choices. They were already doing that in the midst. And so I think there's the other view, it's not opposed to the FIRE movement, but it's slightly different, of saying, I'm going to live the life that I'm excited about now. And that life includes strong relationships. It includes travel. It includes experiences. It also includes going to work and keeping work in an appropriate size and ask of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's American culture also. That's the hustle culture, the burnout culture. I'm going to do this for 10 years. I'm not going to talk to my family. I'm just going to nose the grindstone. And you can run to burnout. I think the other version of that is say, I'm going to be sustainable and healthy all along the way as I build. There's some world where those coexist, but I think it's really important for folks to think about it. Is this something I'm willing to really sacrifice what matters to me to get to a financial place? Or is it something that I want to really first honor my values and then build my finances around that? And they're just kind of different approaches of how you're building your life.
Right. And I think if you're going to make a commitment towards the FIRE movement, you kind of want to think about all the factors that come into play. And certainly I think what we're saying is there's some key principles here that can apply, like lowering your debt, savings, pushing your income. But there are going to be outside factors that are going to impact your trajectory. Health, things outside of our control, if it's family or dependence. The other one that we haven't talked about yet is inflation. It's a very real factor on your purchasing power and how much money you have in the bank.
Yeah, it's a moving target.
You're going to grow all your food, or you're ever going to go in and actually, I don't know, the cost of growing food in comparison to what you could buy at the grocery store. I mean, the work and effort, cost effect, you come across. It's just really difficult. All of a sudden, like you're saying, Laura, if inflation boosts everything up, we've got, people are complaining about certain foods right now. The newly elected president says, I'm going to bring the cost down. I'm going to bring these factors, these commodities that are considered your basic core commodities. We're going to bring those down. I'm going, there's a lot of factors that the president has no control over, and commodity prices are going up. Food products, you could have a chicken flu, and all of a sudden the cost of chicken goes up, the cost of eggs goes up. All these things kind of it's not just somebody in the political throne, so to speak, saying I can drive these costs down. There's a lot of factors that go to it. Now, on an individual basis, what do you do in order to maintain your budget? Because your spending is so correlated to your commitment if you're going to make this commitment. So you're spending. So you don't want to reduce your standard of living so bad that it's actually harmful to yourself, right?
Yep.
That's right.
And the last tenet I would share is that you want to structure your investments in a smart way. And this is something that we would talk to all of our clients about, right? There's an advantage to putting away deferred income or money into your future for retirement into a qualified account. But if you're planning to retire early, there's going to be some strategy that you want to take into place. You want to put money into either a Roth account or a taxable investment account so that you have access to it before 59 and a half. So, there can be complexity if you're planning to retire early. And so this is where we come into play, right? We love this. As an advisor, every situation is different. We get to sit down and learn. If your ambition is to retire early, fantastic. But how are we going to do that? How are we going to look at all the different factors that could impact you getting there to retire early?
Yep. I like some of the things you hear at the end of whether you're going to do full FIRE or just want to move that direction, what do you do? And you put down, get an emergency fund, start paying off any sort of high interest debt, start putting 15% into your retirement. There's some real basic things that get everybody, wherever they're at, can get them on a path towards financial independence at whatever age they are. And I think those are some good first steps. And like you said, we're here for the next 10 steps to get people where they need to be.
Yeah, the roadmap, the goal that's in front of you, obviously the goals, there's nothing wrong with the goal. The question is, you put yourself under a lot of pressure if you restrict the time. You say, I want this in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. Well, that's going to put a lot of pressure on you, and it may not make you happy. So you have to put your goals realistically, and that's what we do in building a plan. Is this something that you can do, and what are your sacrifices in order for you to accomplish this particular goal? So, yeah.
I love it. Well, I hope this episode has been helpful to those who are interested in the FIRE movement or have just heard a lot of chatter about it. But if you have any questions, come have a talk with us. We'd love to sit down with you. We're here at Tricord Advisors. Thanks so much to our listeners.
Until next week, folks, may you grow in wisdom and knowledge. Thank you for listening.
We have a few more things to let you know about before we go. Podcast reviews really help us to serve more people and get this information into the hands of the people who need it. Please leave us a review. Even if it's not 5 stars, we welcome the feedback.
And we invite you to let us know what topics you would like to hear more about or what would benefit the people in your life who you're closest to. We have more resources online. Those resources are designed to help you share this great information easily with people in your life. To access those resources, please visit tricordadvisors.com.
Often we hear from clients that they wish they had talked to us sooner. If that's you, we'd be thrilled to see how financial planning can benefit your life. Email us at contact@tricordadvisors.com or simply click on the link in the show notes.
This show was produced by Graham Gardner at Model FA. Find out more about how to create a podcast for your financial planning business by visiting modelfa.com. We love creating content that's useful, resourceful, and maybe even a little entertaining. We want to make this mega universe of financial topics and advice applicable and helpful to your life.
Remember, at Tricord Advisors, we are your future's best ally.